Hello, everybody, and welcome to I Am Human. My name is Bunny Sugars, and I will be your host for this evening, as per usual. So, what we like to do here on I Am Human is I will be talking to other spiritual practitioners, who I'm going to introduce in a second because I'm so excited. I like to sit here and have conversation with other spiritual practitioners about their lives and what they go through and their journey to get from essentially what is point A to point B, from birth till here. What is the process like for all of us? So usually on this show, if you're watching through Facebook or what is that other site? We're on YouTube. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe if you're happy to be watching through those as well. But what we like to do here is at the final 15 minutes of the show, we will be doing a live Q&A so you can ask our beautiful psychic of the day any question you want about their experiences, about their life, or even just get like questions you've always wanted to ask a psychic out. So especially if you're like super into this channel here, which I hope you are, it's your chance to ask your favorite psychic, like, what is it like? Ask them your burning questions. And so we encourage that. But let's go ahead and jump into this interview process. So today, my beautiful, beautiful guest is my favorite, this beautiful psychic energy. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Oh, Bunny, I'm so happy to be here. I've been watching your previous shows and I love this whole concept.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so happy to have you here. I think me and you bonded pretty quickly when I first started doing the We Psychics 3 in the summer. So I always feel like you are what I want to be when I grow up. Like a very calm, peaceful, you have your garden and you're happy and you're just like a lovely soul.
I'm gonna blush.
Grown, but I'm not energy grown. I'm not like centered grown.
I'll let you into a little secret. I'm not always centered either.
Oh no, it's all about love, light, and these hands. It's not just all peace and love. You gotta fight sometimes too.
Absolutely.
So if you would you like to give yourself a little bit of an introduction for everybody? Tell them what you do. Go for it.
Okay, well, I'm energy. I'm psychic energy, the metaphysical crow. And what I do here, particularly at My Psychic Connection, is I love doing readings for people, but I'm also an energy. I use the word healer loosely. I'm more of an energy facilitator. So I love working with energy and vibrations. I love tarot. I love using all of my tools, tea reading and tea coins, all that kind of thing. And of course, I love doing my show here at My Psychic Connection on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. as well. So I'm an oldie. I'm definitely an oldie. I think I would describe myself as the granny of the group. Without completely giving my age away, I'm the granny of the group.
Look, I wasn't gonna call you out about that or anything, but look, we love the self-identification. I don't think you're like the grandma of the group. I feel like you're more of like everyone's peaceful mom. It's kind of where you come through for me. You're like the mom, like the overarching mom of the group. You're not really, it's like you're so peaceful and you're so chill and you just want everyone to just be happy. Like you don't want a whole lot to do with a whole lot. You just come, you're happy, everyone's happy, and then you go do your garden or do your yoga. You have this very motherly kind of feel. I want to go to your
thank you.
your house.
Considering I'm not actually a mum, I don't actually have children, so that's beautiful for me to hear that. Thank you.
Oh, you have that energy, at least for me, because like I said, when I first joined, you were one of the first people I worked with very closely, along with Kay and Journey, and as well as Swirl. But there was just something so warm and inviting about you. I felt very open with you. Like in the first episode, we were like, yes, we got this. And
I just like we've known each other before.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like that. So it's
Yeah.
always weird when I have that experience with people, but that's what I felt with you. Like we've been here, we've done this. We're just rerunning episodes at this point. Oh my God. But I'm so happy to have you here. So are you ready to jump into this interview with you?
Hit me with those questions.
All right, all right, all right. So let's go into question one, right? So, as a summary, like if you were to summarize, what would you say your gifts are? Like, to the best of your abilities, what is like the general summary you can give everybody?
Okay, well, overall, I avoided the word psychic for a long time, but I am. I'm psychic intuitive. My gifts that I have been given, that I've grown up with, I've actually had experiences of all the different clairs, but the main ones that I have are clairvoyance, clairsentience, and claircognizance, which means that I've got a movie screen in my head where I see things. I have words that are put into my brain and come out my mouth sometimes before I even know what they are, which is the clear cognizance, this inner knowing. And then the clear sentience I have is I feel other people's energy. So for me, my gifts all stem from vibration and energy. And then I have the external tools that I use when working with clients and working with myself. And I'm also an energy healer. So yeah, those, so it's a combo. It's sort of like jack of all trades and still working on being master of one.
No, I'm so happy because that explains exactly why we just get each other, because your main clairs are my main clairs, and you
Ah,
described how it comes in the same way. Like it's a, you just get pictures and you have to somehow verbally put the pictures together. You get words here and there, and you have to, it's just like getting a movie reel and trying to make the movie actually put together and happen. And that's exactly how I've had trouble explaining it all these years. So that's probably why me and you just get each other. We are,
yeah,
you're like this, we're the same.
we're Claire sisters.
We're Claire sisters. We are reclusive Claire sisters.
I like it. I
I
like
love
it.
it for us. So, coming into your gifts and coming into these expansions, well, actually, let's ask the better question first. What age did you start kind of recognizing or experiencing these things?
It's hard to explain. I've kind of had an awareness on some level since I was a little girl. You know, I used to have my old man in the sky. I didn't know what a spirit guide was. I didn't even know there were spirits, but I used to have my old man in the sky. That was how I described him. But it wasn't like this energy was active in my life at that time. I had an imaginary friend. Well, that's what I was told. It was imaginary friend, but this little friend was real to me, and I happily played with this imaginary friend, so to speak. That was been around about the ages of 4, 5, 6. But the real journey for me that became conscious around being psychic and around starting this spiritual journey didn't really happen until I was 18. That's when it really all began. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, why do you think your abilities kind of came to you so late? Now, we all, I guess for the audience clarification, all of us go through our awakenings, our shifts at different ages. Some of us, it's like super young. Some of us, it's like way into our 20s or late teens. Some of us, it's not even till we're like 40 or something like that. It just depends. Everyone's different. So, like, having that kind of late bloom, how different was that for you? Because I'm so used to hearing, well, I was like 10, 11, 12, 13, like I was, like when
Yeah.
it came in. I don't often hear people having their abilities come in at 18. So what was that
Yeah.
like for you?
Well, a lot of my abilities I feel were repressed when I was younger. I
Mhm.
think there were other things I needed to be on the planet before the opening. But the
Mhm.
key point for me was the floodgates. It was a floodgate that opened for me when I was 18, and it occurred when my dad passed away. That's when it
Oh,
all began. That's when it was like somebody had said, okay, it's time for all of your psychic senses to open up 100%, and it's time for you to be fully aware of them, as opposed to something like I knew I lived in a house that I swore was haunted when I was a teenager because I felt
Mhm.
people following me. But at 18, with my dad's passing, I had a lot of experiences that happened
Mhm.
that really opened the floodgates and started me looking at, I need to do something about this. Yeah.
Mm. That's interesting because it was like a dam broke. It was like boom,
Yeah.
and all of
And
it flooded in.
yeah, and
Were
I
you
was overwhelmed, absolutely
oh,
overwhelmed by it.
mhm. That was gonna be my next
And
question, like, were you scared at that time? Because I think if mine came in well, it did kind of do that, but just all at once when you hit a certain point in your life, that has to be a lot emotionally, unfortunately, and I'm so sorry
yeah,
that kinda happened like that, around such, like, a really pivotal point in your life. That's a lot. Did you feel like and this is kind of like more of an offshoot, just did you feel like when this happened, do you feel like you were able to grow into adulthood easier or was it significantly harder with everything going on at once like that? Because you're 18, you're fresh out of high school, right?
yeah, Lordy, you are so in tune with me because I grew up overnight. I grew up in a very protected family. I was
Mhm,
protected from a lot of stuff. And at 18, when my dad passed,
mhm.
I had to suddenly become the adult. But I
Oh.
wasn't scared. I wasn't scared because
Mm,
when when my dad passed, it was only 8 weeks from diagnosis until when he crossed over. So we didn't
oh,
have a long time to prepare. But
mhm,
I had the first experience I had was the moment he passed. We
mhm.
knew that he was going to pass within about 24 hours because of my age in those days, because I'm going back. Like I'm 66 now, almost 67. So I'm going back a lot of years. And it was in the days where they tried to protect young people from
Mhm.
experiencing other people's death. So I didn't
Oh,
get to see him in the final week of his
oh,
life. But we were sitting at home waiting, and the tension in the house was like, you want to talk about feeling energy. And I just had to get away from it. And I went
mhm.
into a room by myself, and I was just there. And I had this moment where I breathed, I just let out a sigh. And I said physically out loud to myself, it's done. It's over. And
Oh, wow.
I almost felt like this shower of deep peace. I've never felt peace like it since.
Wow.
Totally enveloped me. And that was the moment I knew that my dad had passed. And 5 minutes later, we got a phone call. But it was
Oh,
also the moment I knew that there was more than this physical life. I always
mm,
believed it because my mum was a medium when she was a kid, but never developed it. So there was
oh.
always that in the background. But that was the moment where I knew there was more. I didn't just believe there was more. I knew that we went on. I knew that it was the body that ceased to exist, not the spirit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was sad. Of course, I lost my dad in physical form anyway, but I didn't lose him for long. I had lots of visits, lots of visits.
Oh, yeah. I also kind of feel the same way, especially my grandfather actually passed. It feels like a year ago. It feels like yesterday, but it was probably more closer to 2 years ago when he passed. I felt horrible at first because you're going through the process. We took care of him up until his death. He did hospice and home, and it's horrible up until that point. But then once it's done, he's left his physical body. I didn't feel that same type of sadness because I knew he's gonna come back. He's got things to do, and quite certainly he still roams around. He's still, turning off my
Yeah,
AC unit when I don't want it to. They never really leave. That is something that I think is a important takeaway, especially for people who are going through grief right now. You're never really alone. They never really go. They'll go when they're ready, but a lot of the times they choose to stay. It's really up to them, but a lot of the times for a while they'll be there. You just have to
yeah.
like listen and feel for them. It's hard to do at first. That's the thing, but they are always there with you in spirit, literally.
But believe me, I didn't have to listen and feel at all. It was like in your face kind of, it was paranormal. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with knocks on the bedroom wall, like,
Oh,
physical
God.
knocking on the bedroom wall. And I would think it was my mum in the next room trying to get my attention because she was sick or something. And so I'd stagger into her room half asleep, and she'd be sound asleep. And I would go back into my room, knock, knock, knock. And it was like, oh gosh, what's that? Oh, it's my dad. He's letting me know that he hasn't abandoned me.
Oh my God. Spirits are funny. Our people who pass over, they are funny. The way they try and contact us. Like I said,
Yeah.
my granddad used to turn off my AC unit when I had one of the window units, the old school ones. He would just turn it off, and I'd be like, wow, that's rude. But it got my attention. And
Yeah.
then sometimes even now in this house, like things will just fall over. And I'm just like, and it's always stuff I care about that falls over. Literally
Yeah.
things like my purses, or a shoe will fall over off the rack or something. And I'm like, why we gotta harass things? It's really funny how they reach out to us. So do
Mm.
you feel that your dad still reaches out now? Like in
He
that same
does.
way?
Over the years, at key points in my life,
Mm-hmm.
like on my 21st birthday, I was never a party person, so it was like a family dinner. And on my 21st birthday, I was going to sleep that night, and I lived on a first floor apartment, so there was no external access.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was going to sleep, I had 3 knocks on my window, and I just said, thanks, Dad, thanks for coming to my 21st birthday.
Aww.
And then when I got married, I got married quite late in life in comparison to a lot of people. But the night I got married, hubby and I were getting ready to go to sleep, and I saw something on the ceiling physically, because with my dad, it's always physical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw what looked like a bolt of lightning up on the
Mm-hmm.
ceiling coming from the corner of my bedroom. And I just sort of held my breath, and I thought, do I tell my husband or not? And I said to him, have you noticed anything? And he went, yeah. And I said, what did you notice? And he said, bolt of lightning up in the ceiling of the bedroom. And I went, what do you think about that? And he said, that was your dad giving us his blessing.
I would hope so, because the bolt of lightning is kind of intense. I hope it
Yeah,
was
it was
something.
just like this light, and it was coming down like a bolt of lightning. It was, yeah. So it's key points in my life, or if something really big is happening. Other times I will have lucid dreams that are predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Other times I will have predictions. I think one of the hardest predictions I ever did, and didn't even realize I had done it. That's why I say sometimes words get put in my head and out my mouth before I know what I'm saying.
Yep.
And the sad part was I predicted my sister's passing 6 months
Oh,
before she passed. And I gave a timing as well.
I
Didn't
hate.
stop the shock of it when it happened, because I forgot about it afterwards. It was a family friend when my
Mhm.
sister passed who said, you said that was going to happen in July. And I said, did I? Oh. So I'm very careful when I'm doing readings
Mhm.
about, it's not that I censor information per se, but that to me is a boundary. I've set up a boundary with spirit where I say, I don't go there. I don't
Yeah.
do that.
I've tried to keep a similar boundary up, honestly, because I think I was talking about this with Squirrel too. It's kind of like a traumatizing thing to know before they know, before anyone else knows. And you never know what to do with that. Especially in the past few months, I've been seeing a lot of that. No, mom, I'm not going to tell you. But it's like I've seen so much of that, and I've been getting visions of that. And I do not think spirit is listening to my boundary anymore. I've tried to
Yeah.
stay away for so long, but at a certain point, they're like, no, you need to hear it. You need to hear it. You need to hear
Yeah.
it. I don't want to, but they force you.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think from my perspective, it was like I was being given a warning so that I was kind of prepared for it. But
mhm,
because I put it out of my head, because she passed very, very suddenly
mhm,
in another country, and it was still a shock to me. And I find when I have these particularly predictive lucid dreams,
mhm,
it's a warning to me to be prepared for something,
mhm.
even if I don't understand it at the time
Yeah.
or forget it afterwards.
The it's like it's a blessing and a curse to forget it afterwards, because it's like, wow, this is really important, but I don't want to think about it. I think
Yeah.
that's where sometimes we have to be a little bit kinder to ourselves, because we take in a lot of serious information, And there's nothing we can do. We just have to either let it happen. We can give all the warning in the world, but we can't stop it once it starts.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to learn that forgiveness of yourself, because sometimes you feel like, wow, I could have did something. No, you couldn't have. So
Yeah.
going through these experiences is extremely difficult, unfortunately. How do you
And
feel
it's
like you're able to navigate that, honestly? How do you feel your ability to digest it has changed, or is that boundary with spirit so high that it just doesn't happen as much anymore?
it doesn't happen as much because a very wise mentor that I had earlier in my life said to me,
Mhm,
because spirit wants to come in, or because someone who's crossed over wants to come in, because I did train as a medium. That was my
mhm,
first training, was as a medium. I was
mhm.
actually a trance medium when I was a teenager. It scared
Ooh.
the daylights out of me, but and so I don't trance medium anymore. I only do it consciously. But I
Okay.
set up, and they said it's a two-way connection. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way relationship with your
Mhm,
spirit guides, with the universe, with the cosmos, whatever it is. You're here on the planet with free will. So
mhm.
because a spiritual entity, or because a spirit guide or something happens, you don't have to agree to it. And
That
so I've set up very strong boundaries where I have an on-off switch.
Oh, I like that. I feel like that comes with experience, though. I feel like
I
that
think
comes with
so.
experience.
Yeah, yeah. When I was younger, honestly, I lived more in the spirit world than I did on the planet. But we've all incarnated in physical form to have
Mhm,
this physical experience. So I wasn't fulfilling that aspect of who I was in this
mhm.
incarnation by having a better social life spiritually in spirit than I had physically on the planet. So I had to get
Um,
that balance. That was one of my lessons, was getting that
I
balance between the two.
That's interesting, because I don't have balance for no. I'm gonna be the first one to tell you I don't have balance for nothing. Like, there is no balance. It is chaos or nothing. And unfortunately, some of us walk a very gray line of chaos and no chaos. I'm one of those. So
Well, it's
that's
never
the kind of
boring, is
balance I
it?
want to achieve. Oh my gosh. What was that? What did you say? I missed that.
I
I'm
said, it's
sorry.
never boring though, is it?
No, it's never boring. It's like life is either really slow and boring, or it's just boom, everything has exploded and you just got to deal with it. And then you're stressed.
I'm very, I'm very lucky. I'm a person who very rarely gets bored because I have a strong curiosity about
Yeah.
things. I've got a strong curiosity about spirituality. I mean, I've
Mhm.
been exploring this for what, 46 years now, something like that.
That's
So, and you know, people will say, oh, 46 years, you must know what you're on about, you must know what you're talking about. I'm still learning like everyone else, because
ye-
the learning is infinite to me.
yes.
Your beautiful psychic show that you do is called Down the Rabbit Hole.
Mhm.
Love going down those rabbit holes.
That's exactly how I compare life, because A, you're right, you never stop learning. You don't. Especially in this particular spectrum of like work or just life, the spiritual side, you're always figuring something out. It's like very much like a constant episode of Scooby Doo. You're always trying to understand and figure out and solve a mystery to something. You never get downtime to just not. So it is a rabbit hole. Life is a rabbit hole. You just keep going down. You stop when you're dead, I guess. Even when you're dead, I'm pretty sure you don't stop. Depends on where you think you go after this.
I don't know if you can hear me or not. There's been a little, there were gremlins, so my screen has frozen a little bit. So I hope you can still at least hear me.
I can hear you. We still see you on screen, but I still hear you, which is great.
Excellent.
Oh
The
wait, there you
joys
are.
of
You're
being
coming
on the
back.
other side of the world in Australia.
Australia, all these solar storms. I need Australia to calm down. But you're closer to like the equator, aren't you? So that might do it. That'll do it.
I'm in the south, so
Uh,
I'm closer to the other side. So I'm further south. I'm in
oh,
southeast Australia. That's where I live.
oh, and Australia is so big.
It's huge. It's
Yes, you're
huge.
gonna have to one day point it out to me on a map because I
I
can tell
will.
you where Australia is. I know nothing about the geography. I know it's huge though, and
Yeah.
everything wants to kill you. So, in terms of abilities, you did say that you trained as a trance medium. So, from there, when, and where did exactly reading tea leaves come from? How did you get into tea
Ah,
leaves?
well, that happened by mistake initially, and then I ignored it for many years.
Mhm.
I'm Scottish. I was born and lived in Scotland for up until I was almost 10. And I did Scottish Highland dancing here in Australia. And my dancing teacher one day was drinking a cup of tea and she said, "You're Scottish, you're Fae, you're with the spirit, read my tea leaves." And at 16, I went, "What the heck? I'll give it a go." And it turned out I was accurate. But I let that go because I was so much into the spiritual side, the mediumship side. I did platform work, doing mediumship in spiritualist churches for a couple of years. There was just so much going on that the tea leaves actually didn't come into something that I did professionally. Only about 6 years ago, I started professionally reading tea leaves and
Ooh.
loved it.
That's so interesting. I like how the lady said, hey, read these leaves. You just went for it. I dig that. Honestly,
And at 16, it was like, what am I, it's like, okay, I was
what
asked to
do you
do it, I'll
mean?
do it. Let's see what happens.
It's like, what do you mean read these tea leaves?
No, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's funny how that happens because usually before we know that we're gifted, someone else knows that we're gifted. Someone else can sense it, spot it, and even if they're not like in the spiritual world like we are now, they know. And so they'll tell you to do these crazy things. And I remember something similar happened to me with my mentor. She was like, read these cards. I was like, what cards? What you mean? She said, throw your guidebooks away. I'm like, okay. So it's really funny how people will spot our gifts before we're able to spot our gifts. I kind of love that though. She just threw the teacup at you and said, "Get to it." Let's see. So, in terms of you've been in the industry for a good amount of time. You said like 45 years, right? How do you feel like the landscape of the industry itself has changed? Like there's so much that has shifted from 45 years back. I've only been doing this for maybe like 15-ish. Like, so how do you feel this landscape in general has changed like as a career? Uh-oh. So everybody, we seem to be having a little bit of a technical difficulty. So if you guys could just hang on with us real quick. I think what's happening is Energy is having some internet issues, which tends to happen because, Australia be doing Australia things. So she'll probably be jumping in with us really, really soon. But while we're here, I'll go ahead and kind of expand on some topics for everybody because our conversation right now is extremely interesting, especially about the dynamic of a lot of the times, and you'll hear this a lot in my interviews, that we can predict and see things that most people cannot predict, like death. And it's not something we see all the time. And a lot of the times, it's not something we want to see. It's something that is given to us. And that's where people start getting scared of us. Because, like, in general, people do get scared when you bring up psychic mediums and you hear that, oh, you can see death, you can do this, you can talk to ghosts. People get very terrified about that, but what they don't realize is a lot of the times we don't want that either. We end up unfortunately having to absorb messages that we may not want, and it really has a lot to do more with the fact that we as people, we as humans, are also going through a myriad of human emotions. And death is something that a lot of us, especially in the starts of our life, are afraid of. That never really goes away. It's like, even with myself personally, I may be able to see death or see life, but at the same time, the thought of death scares me. Please make sure if I'm ever to die, I'm asleep because I don't want to see it, hear it, feel it, think about it. But we're human. And unfortunately, we have to absorb this information. And sometimes the information can even be about ourselves. It's not a bad thing. It's just more so, it's very jarring information. So think about how, as a non psychic, you have to process that information. And think about being a psychic and knowing. It's like you get news in a doctor's office and you know this is going to happen, but then be a psychic and you're laying at home eating potato chips at 3 o'clock in the morning and watching anime. And then boom, here comes this intuitive hit. And you now have to somehow process all of that. It is very like going through these stages of grief before you even get to the grief. And so, where people, I've always noticed, want this ability, like people admire to a degree what we can do and they want to be psychic too. This is the greatest gift and the greatest curse that you could ever receive. And it's simply because I tell a lot of people, you don't want this job. It looks really fun. It's cool. It's niche. This is not a job you want if you are not emotionally fortified in some way, shape, or form, because it'll either drive you mad or you're I don't know, you either go mad or you just get over it. There's no way. My therapist is paid big dollars. So I just wanted to kind of give that little explanation for people, especially because I hear a lot of the times that people think this is such a cool skill and they want to become psychic, but they don't realize it comes with a lot of emotional toll, a lot of emotional burden, and it's not necessarily a bad burden to carry because we choose to take on that burden. The problem here, though, is that no one really knows how troubling it can be to live in this kind of world. Like I said, there we go. So thank you all for listening to me ramble for about 4 minutes. We have the beautiful energy back in the house. Welcome back.
I can't believe it. Now, are they playing silly bees with us today, do you think?
It's always something with electricity and internet. I want to ask you a question, though. Have you ever thought, because you are like this energy conductor, that sometimes you can affect your own electrical systems?
Yes, I think so. I will tell you a funny story. I don't know if it is actually real or not, but in the old-fashioned days, we used to have the bunny rabbit antenna on top of, literally on top of your TV box. When we had bad reception, if I went and held it, picture would clear up.
It was you. You had to be the missing link for the bunny.
Oh, I've never been called a missing link before. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Missing link.
Because look, okay, maybe I'm just really in a mental tangent here. So let me just entertain the audience real quick.
Go with it.
So basically, you have the internet screwing up. You have your TV signals messed up. Everything's static. It's horrible, right? And all you need is this one person with a little bit extra electrical energy, like we psychics tend to have, to just touch it and fix it. We are the missing link between, oh shoot, so we might have like really good careers as electricians, low-key. We could probably make a good buck being an electrician, but we're not going to do that to ourselves.
And knowing me, it would be more like I would create more havoc if something was working and I tried to do something about it to make it better.
The wires would just go pop, 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 done.
Yeah.
And we have crazy
out. And we have crazy winds here at the moment as well. So things are energy now. But anyway, I made it back. I rebooted my computer and I've given it a talking to.
Yes, you must scold your electronics for doing way too much for no reason.
I get the finger wag going. Don't do this, Tommy.
I do that too. I talk to my electronics too. It's because when we got to let them know we love them, but y'all can't do this mess. It's foolish.
Yes. It's all vibration and energy at the end of the day anyway.
Yes. So before we had to cut off into, me talking about things for a moment, I had asked you a question, and it was about how you said you had been in the industry for about 45 years. How do you feel the landscape of this industry has changed? Like, just as within the spiritual profession, how do you think things have shifted? Like, what is your
Uh,
experience with that?
yeah, I think things have shifted a lot. I mean, I don't use the word industry because I think what we do is less about being an industry and being, yes, we have to put on a business hat if this is how we earn our living, absolutely.
Yes.
But I feel that it's more of a vocation and a calling. I
Oh.
didn't just I just didn't decide one day, oh, I'm going to be a psychic and I'm going to read tarot. I got my first tarot deck when I was 19. In fact, I still have it. This is it here. This is my very first tarot deck that I bought back in 1979. And but for me, it's a calling, and the business side came later. So I've been in and out of the tarot closet, so to speak, for years because of those perceptions of who you are. You're the work of the devil is
Mm,
one of them. You're a
mm,
scam artist is the other one. And so I was in and out a lot. So in terms of the industry and it's changing, I think it is slowly changing. I think, well, for starters, the laws have changed, so we can be more open about who we are and what we do. You'd be, going way back, burned at the stake, hung as a witch
yes.
when you were a healer or a psychic. And then that kind of energy still plays around a little bit. It really
Yeah.
still does. I mean, it's only really, I'm just trying to think, I think it was in 2001 in one of the states here in Australia that the fortune telling laws were repealed
Oh.
so that it was no longer illegal to tell fortunes.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, I mean, I can't be surprised because even in America, especially in the Northeast where I am, that was like a big thing. The Salem witch trials were like a huge thing, and I'm not far from
Yeah.
Salem myself. So you hear about that a lot. So they have found a way to license, like you get a license now. I don't know how you exam
Mhm.
people it's weird, but basically they've stopped making it illegal and now you are licensed in this profession if you want to make
Yeah.
money in it. Except where I am,
Yeah.
they don't give a crap about that.
Yeah, we don't have to
Metaphysics
we
did
don't
it.
have to be licensed at all here in
Oh, that's
Australia for
nice.
doing this. But I do think that that I'll use the word industry because was the word you used in your
Yeah.
question. I do think it is slowly changing, but I
Mhm.
feel it's like a bell curve. In business, you have a bell curve. At one extreme, you have the early adopters, you have people who like to try new things. At the
Mhm.
other end of the scale, you have people who you are the devil, you're not doing God's work, you're doing the devil's work. And I think the middle part of that bell is opening up. I read face to face with
Mhm.
clients as well as doing online stuff, and particularly here at my Psychic Connection.
Mhm.
And I find that I get a lot more first timers, so to speak, than ever before.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
part of my role as a reader, and I'm,
Mhm.
I'm, a, I'm a teacher at heart. I love teaching. I used to teach massage, I taught dancing, I taught all sorts of things. Love teaching.
I
And
knew it.
so I felt that part of my role as a reader and as a psychic in general is to help people understand what it is.
Mhm.
The first thing I tell people is I'm not a fortune teller. But what I do is I look at the potential of your future around a situation or question that you have to see what
Mhm.
the likely outcome is if you stay on the same path. But you're here with free will. And so I feel that that's part of my role. And that hopefully, with all of us doing our own level of education and teaching with our clients, because we all do it in our own way by setting the boundaries of how we read for people, I
Mm.
think that helps open things up. And I think more and more people like myself are well and truly out of the closet and not going back in again.
No, it's too late. We have come too far to go back in. But
Absolutely.
I'm so happy you did say you were a teacher of some sort because I knew that about you before I even met you. Because before I joined the
Oh,
network, I watched everyone's videos and stuff like that. And it's something, and I always said something about energy gives me the feeling of she would like be really good at like teaching children or teaching kindergarten. There's something very relaxing and easy about the way you talk, and it's melodic. So you can just kind of follow it. It's
oh.
like a trance almost. I'm like, you were a teacher. And I was right.
You are so tuned into me, girl. You really are. One of the things I used to do on a voluntary basis was I have a particular heartfelt outlook on people who live with disabilities. I don't say someone is ever disabled, but they live
Mhm.
with a disability that impacts their life in some way. And so one of the things that I used to do was teach dancing to children in wheelchairs, to children who were using walking sticks, to children. And I did that on a voluntary basis in a local school. And then when I became a yoga teacher at the age of 58, and I specialized in working with people who think they couldn't do yoga. So my area of specialty was working with people who were living with intellectual challenges and physical disabilities, teaching them yoga. And honestly, it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, aside from the psychic work that I do. And there was a lot of psychic work in that as well, because some of my clients couldn't speak. So there was other types of communication that was going on, so I could understand how far I could go with them when I was teaching them yoga.
Oh, that's so sweet. That hit me in my heart because I love that.
Oh,
And I love what you say about people with disabilities. Like, I have physical limitations myself, and I will say it's not that I'm disabled. My body just don't feel like it sometimes.
yeah.
It's never disability. You're never really disabled. You're just abled in another way. You just have to find your workaround. And everyone has a workaround, no matter what your disability
Yeah.
is. And I love that you recognize that within people
Yeah.
and you take the time to help the children. Energy, my heart. My heart is full.
I have to tell you, I had one little girl that I worked with, and I was only about 23 when I was doing this
Mhm.
initially. One little girl that I worked with dance, and she had very restricted physical movement, and
Mhm.
she considered herself ugly. And she
Oh
said to me,
no.
I can't be in your class because I can't move anything. And I said to her, sweetheart, I said, you have a very special ability when it comes to dance. And she said, what's that? I said, you can dance with your eyes. I said, I'm going to show you how to dance with your eyes so that who you are, shines through. And that child got her confidence up to a point that we did a little dance choreography and we performed it in front of the entire school at assembly. And she was proudly up there dancing with her eyes.
Oh my God.
And
Energy.
the reason why I'm telling you this, because we're talking about psychic things, but psychic abilities and healing abilities is beyond just doing readings. And I'm not saying just readings, because we really do help people when we read for them. But there are other ways that we can tune in and use our abilities in very, very different ways without necessarily always having to wear the psychic hat publicly, if that makes sense. So I wanted to share that, because and I'm talking to everyone here, if you have a calling to do something to help people, know that you can use psychic abilities in very different ways. It doesn't have to be just about divination.
Yeah, divination, the tools is just one way, but the impact you make on people's lives, whether it be for their own good or just good in general, it means significantly more than just being able to tell you guys, does A, B, X, Y, and Z love me? And does he want to, relationship with me? Our jobs can encompass so much more than that. And that's what brings us, I think, the most joy in our profession. And the reason I'm sitting here wispy eyed is because when you hear her talk about what she does, you know that she's coming from a place of earnesty. She really means what she says. And that is the most beautiful thing to me, when you love your job so much and you just want to see people grow and expand, especially children, because children have it rough right now. That feeds my soul in a way that it just feels me whole. And that's why I'm so emotional listening to you talk about it, because I know you
Oh,
do it for the love of what you do. You don't care about the money, what you can get from it, the recognition. You just care about what your mission is. And I admire you for that.
oh, thank
Oh,
you. And also, all the time I was doing this, I was getting my money. I was earning my income from doing other things. I was a
yeah.
radio announcer for 5 years. I was a radio writer for 5 years.
Hmm.
I worked in a science center as a promotions manager. But I brought who I am maybe a little less publicly than I do now, but I use
Yeah.
my intuition, I use my psychic skills in every aspect of my life. And that's one of the, I guess, if I was going to get up on a soapbox, that's the one thing I wanted to share with people, that if you have these psychic abilities, it's part of who you are. And it took me a long time to learn that I didn't have to hide them.
I think, or actually, I can ask you as well, do you feel like people have become more tolerant of people like us?
I think it's a mixed bag still. I do think it's easier for us to be more open now. I feel like, there's less chance of getting burned at the stake now. There's less chance of being drowned in a nearby river.
Amen.
But it's more the power of opinion that I find. In fact, it would be about 3 years ago. Social media to me is a blessing and a curse. About
Yes.
3 years ago, I was trying to put myself out there a little bit more, and I put a little thing in a local group, Facebook group, said, I'm available for readings if you'd like. And this one person who's never met me, didn't know anything about me, didn't try to ask what it was all about, put up a response that said, don't go to her, she's a scam artist. So it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah.
And it's not as much or as often. That's what I'm noticing.
People are weird. But I can totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
I've seen that too. It's happened to me too. But at least we're not getting lit on fire. I'm quite thankful for that.
Yeah, I think I've already been there, done that.
I don't know. Every time in my past lives, I'm just getting shot or killed or pushed off a bridge. I don't know what is wrong with me, but I'm glad I was never set on fire. I
can't say for sure, but it feels like it sometimes.
It do, don't it? Oh my God. Energy, thank you so much. We're rounding into our Q&A portion for everything, but thank you so much for sharing your story. Oh, my heart. I love you even more now hearing the rest of your story.
We gotta do the clear sister thing. Here we go. Love, love, love.
Oh my goodness. So are you ready for some Q&A from our audience?
Oh yes, the pressure.
The pressure. Gemma asks, do your gifts continue to get stronger the older you get?
Oh, that's a great question, Gemma. Thanks for asking. Look, it's my major response for anything is it's usually a mixed bag. It also depends how much time, energy, and effort that you put into it. We use the term psychic gifts, and that's kind of like the innate things that we bring to the surface as we go through this life. But in order to develop these gifts, you need to put time, effort, and energy into it. And so I feel that with your gifts, as you grow older, if you don't keep putting the energy into it, if you don't keep using them and practicing, they can deteriorate, they can fade away again. They're always there, but it's our conscious awareness and intention about how we use them that helps keep the strength and the growth there. And I feel that as we go through life as a psychic, our gifts might change a little bit, that the priorities of what they are might change a bit. When I was younger, it was trance mediumship. I didn't know what the hell was happening to me. And that was the way I trained initially. And I got to a point where I went, no, I don't want to do it that way anymore. When I do mediumship, I want to be aware. I don't want anyone just to come into my energy field with me not knowing who they are. So Gemma says, I'm not calling you old either. Gemma, you're allowed to call me old. That's why I call myself the metaphysical crone. I'm in my crone years, So it's okay. I don't think I'm old, but yeah, I'm a crone.
I always thought crone had something more to do with like your third eye chakra, as opposed to you were talking about your age, and I feel really slow. Because I never knew the term for that was the crone age range. I never knew of that.
If you think about an easy way to remember is think about the phases of the moon. When we have a new moon and it's waxing towards full moon, you're kind of in that maiden, that young age, you're growing, you're maturing. Then when you get to the full moon, that's kind of like the mother stage, where you have responsibilities and you've got a bit of life experience. And then the waning is coming into the crone years, sort of, I like to think of myself as I use the word wise for myself very loosely, but, the old woman on the edge of the forest, she's doing her thing, and the responsibilities of family and that type of thing, the priorities have changed. So that's how I see Corone. And Gemma says, I can't believe you're 66, you look and are amazing. Oh, thank you, Gemma. Look, the camera's being kind to me.
No,
He
you are
says I'm a crone too, Energy. Oh, yes, crone. I think it's a nicer way than saying I'm an old lady.
this is a good way. Kelly wanted to know, how did you start doing tea leaf readings?
Well, as I said, when I was 16, it was just put upon me, and I'm never one to say no to something, no to a challenge. But it kind of went into the background because I was focusing on other things. There was this other thing called actually learning how to live a physical life, how to be on the planet. So I had a lot of years just doing that. But in terms of starting tea leaf readings this time, I was kind of drawn back to it. And, you know, people were saying to me, "You're Scottish, you must know how to read tea leaves." And so I met this lovely lady via the internet in Melbourne who creates these most amazing tea leaf reading products. And so you see me on the show at My Psychic Connection using my tea coins. They're based on tea leaves. And so with the tea leaf reading, I kind of got interested in it again at a very late age, you know, just about 6 years ago. And I'm one of these people, I hate just using one tool. I'm not a purist. I'm definitely not a purist. I'm very eclectic. So when I'm working, I like to use and combine different tools. And I thought, oh, tea leaves with tarot, tarot and tea, kind of rhymes, kind of goes together. And so it went from there. And so now I like to include lots of different things when I'm doing readings, including tea coins, tea charms, tea cards, and of course, the good old fashioned tea leaf reading in a cup. I hope that answers your question.
Oh my God, I love that. We are the multi tool users.
Yes, I'm a multi-tool.
Yes. Clarissa says, I'm really stuck on turning the AC off. Like, knock over the purses, that's fine, but please don't touch the AC. Look, that used to drive me crazy, especially during the summer, because I don't like being hot and I don't like being too cold, but I'd rather be cold than hot. So I always had the AC on. And granddad would just cut the AC off. And I'm like, wow, that's rude. Kelly says, it's very interesting and it's a treat to see. My grandmother used to read tea leaves and I have given it a try, but I think I need more practice.
It does take practice, and it's about developing your intuition. The
Mm.
tool itself is not the thing. You are.
Like,
The tool is a way.
Mhm. I
No, go
agree.
on. Yeah, like the tool is the physical external, excuse the pun, medium that you use to kickstart your intuition, to bring the messages through. And I find when I'm working, I mean, I don't really need to use any tools. I could sit and just do it, but I find having the physical tools is helpful, not just to me, but to the clients. They have something tangible in front of them. They have
Mm.
something tangible that they see that they can relate to. And I find it can draw in their intuition as well when they can see something tangible as part of the reading.
Mm.
So that's why I
Yeah,
like to use tools.
I agree. I like that. I like how you explain that. Debbie asks, do you enjoy being a psychic? What are the benefits and drawbacks? Can you tell me if I'm a psychic? If yes, what spiritual gifts do I have? Oh, that's one's
Okay.
kind of a tough one.
I'm gonna answer the first part of that, Debbie, because the second part is you asking for a reading. And if you would like to do a reading, remember we've got heaps and heaps of psychic readers here at My Psychic Connection with heaps of live shows where you can pop your question in there. But the
Hey.
first question, do I enjoy being a psychic? Most of the time, yes. There are some days where I think, stop, shut up, I need time out. Luckily, I've learned how to have an off switch. But I do enjoy it. I would not be doing this publicly. I would not be seeing clients if I didn't enjoy it. I believe this type of work, you have to want to do it. You have to be happy doing it, at least most of the time, even though sometimes we have to give information that can be challenging for people or can be sad for people. But the benefits of it, the benefits for me are for me personally, I feel like I have a broader experience of life, a broader experience of consciousness and awareness that goes beyond what am I having for dinner today. I have a natural curiosity about what is beyond the surface of things. And so I enjoy being a psychic because it allows me using those abilities to delve a little bit deeper with them, not just in doing readings, but in trying to understand ourselves as spiritual beings that are here on this physical planet having these experiences. And I can't say that I can answer it all the time, but the benefit to me is when horrible things go on in the world, which is what's happening now, so many things happening around the world that, just tear my heart apart. But having that psychic outlook and having that more spiritual, philosophical, metaphysical turn to it, helps me to better deal with those horrible things that happen in the world. So I think that's one of the greatest benefits that I have.
It's truly a blessing and a curse. Also, one of the cons of this profession, you cannot cut this off. You cannot shut your brain down all the time. So you just got to deal. It's a lot. It's a lot. Debbie asks, do you have to be born psychic? Can I learn to be psychic, and how long does it take? Ooh.
Okay. I actually like these questions.
Go for it.
We all have psychic abilities within us. I firmly believe that. It can range from what we do here at My Psychic Connection down to everyone has what we call a gut instinct. People will say, my gut said don't do that. My gut said do that. So it is actually there. So we have these innately within us. Some people are born with them more on the surface, more ready to rock and roll. There are young people I remember Kay in her show saying that she, at a very young age, was aware and had these psychic abilities. I think Destiny K said the same thing. Squirrel said the same thing. For me, the full-on floodgates happened later in life. So it's one of those things that it's there. So you don't have to be born with full psychic abilities. You can learn. I trained. I was with a spiritualist church for 2 years where I sat in a circle, a private spiritual circle every week. And I trained and I learned. I learned psychometry, and it's done through practice. It's done through having good mentors. In terms of how long it takes, I answer that by saying how long is a piece of string. It's a unique experience for every single person. For some people, it's like that and they're in and doing it. Other people, they need to take the journey. And it's not just about the psychic abilities, Debbie. It's also about having, how can I put this? It's also about having discernment. It's about having the ability to know when to use it and actually when not to as well. Because I know I got so caught up in my psychic abilities and my spiritual life that I wasn't living a normal life in terms of going out with people and socializing. And, I'm a bit of a social hermit because of it, because I didn't do that when I was younger. So if you're interested in developing your psychic abilities, I feel that, and this is for everyone, not just Debbie, if you feel like you want to develop your psychic abilities, it's about setting the intention that you want to do it and know that you need to put in time, effort, and energy, and being able to find a mentor who is trustworthy as well. I think that's important too. Someone that you can fully trust, because you have to be vulnerable to do this. And I'm the queen of trying not to be vulnerable. I'm really good at putting up those walls. So, yeah.
You said that so eloquently in a way that I probably couldn't. So I'm so glad you explained that so well. Oh my gosh. Kelly asks, do you smell things from spirit? I do. I'm not sure if many people have this experience. Oh, go for it.
That's a good one. Yeah. Do I smell things from spirit? Very occasionally. It's not one of my strong clairs. It's usually I will smell things if my mum is around. My mum used to be a heavy smoker. So if I smell cigarette smoke, I know my mum's floating around me, floating in the house, or just saying, hey, I'm here. I very rarely get a direct message from her. The other thing that I get in terms of smell is I will sometimes smell perfume. If someone is around, but it is not one of my strong clairs, and it's not a clair that I chose to develop. I focused more on the clairvoyance. Even though I'm not doing mediumship much at the moment, I focused on that a lot. Psychometry, where you hold an object and you tune in, looking at photographs. The smell side, not so strong with me, and it's not an area that I was really called to try and develop more, because if you try and develop all the clairs, it can get confusing. And so it's better to focus on a couple, particularly when you're starting out, focusing on one that's your strongest and developing that, and then see what else comes in. You know, when I started out, I was experiencing them all, but it was confusing. It's like I didn't know if I was Arthur or Martha when it came to psychic abilities. I was hearing things. I used to have someone whistle physically. I would hear someone whistling in my ear, right up in my ear when no one was around. But you have to discern what path you want to take, because you have free will in this as well. You're not just a spiritual puppet. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
I think that was a great way to describe it. We're not spiritual puppets. We have choices. We have free will. Oh my goodness, everyone. Thank you so much for all of your awesome questions. You guys knocked it out. Another beautiful episode. Energy. Thank you so much, my sister. I love talking to you because I love figuring out things, and you help kind of just bridge some gaps for me at all times. I love using your wisdom to my advantage because I'm still lost in this world. So thank you so much for coming here and sharing your experiences and your wisdom. And I love you so much. You have been a phenomenal guest. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I have something to say to you, Miss Bunny Sugars.
Oh,
Do not underestimate yourself. I think you're amazing. I wish when I was your age, at your stage of life, I wish I had been brave enough to be putting my psychic abilities out there as publicly as you do now. So I admire your courage, and don't ever underestimate what you do or your skill sets, because I think you are amazing as well.
oh, thank you. Oh no.
Heck, you've even got me having a tear, and I am the queen of not crying.
We don't like crime, but we will certainly do it. Thank you so much. I love you. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. It has been an honor and a pleasure. Don't forget, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can check out Kay the Intuitive Empath, and she's going to have a special guest on her show. It might be Journey Ryan. You don't know. It could be the Boogeyman. You never know. Just go check out her show because it's going to be fun. And then at midnight, you can catch Journey Ryan, the man himself, in Journey Ryan Live on his show, drawing cards for everybody. So thank you all so much for being here. It has been an honor, a pleasure. And I have been Bunny Sugars. This has been Chaos. And I am so happy to see you here. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye. Actually, once.